Story 1. The French author Georges Perec wrote an entire novel without using the letter E. Gilbert Adair translated it into English without using the letter E. Perec wrote a follow-up novel, Les Revenantes, in which E is the only vowel used. Story 2. The maximum amount someone could win on a single episode of Jeopardy is $283,200. It would require getting every question right in regular Jeopardy, hitting the daily double last behind a $200 clue, doing the same in Double Jeopardy, hitting the 2 daily doubles last if they are both behind $400 clues, then betting everything in Final Jeopardy and getting it right. Story 3. Che is a common expression in Argentina, their version of hey. Ernesto Guevara was nicknamed that because he said it all the time, and the Cubans thought it was funny. Story 4. Dolphins must sleep with half their brain shut down while the other part ensures they don't forget to breathe. Then they switch brain halves, allowing the resting part to sleep while the active part helps them return to the surface to breathe. Story 5. Martin Van Buren is the only president confirmed to have 0 British ancestry. The only other president who could say the same was Dwight D. Eisenhower, but that wasn't confirmed. Story 6. If you counted all of the planets in the universe at a rate of 1 per second, you would need to start counting at the beginning of the universe until the present day, 13.7 billion years. Then you would need to go back to the beginning of the universe and start counting again 4.6 million times. 1 unique planet each second. For 0.2 septillion planets. Story 7. General Dan Sickles lost his leg during the Battle of Gettysburg. He donated it to the Army Medical Museum, since renamed the National Museum of Health and Medicine. It is still on display. Story 8. The pronunciation of Arkansas is defined by the state legislature because the first United States senators representing Arkansas disagreed on how to pronounce the state name. Story 9. Bee scientists once conducted an experiment where they put flowers on a boat in the middle of a lake and showed them to a bee. The bee went back to the hive and told all the other bees about it. But they didn't believe her that there would be flowers in the middle of a lake, and none of the others came to check it out. Story 10. Most people are aware that SCUBA is an acronym for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. What most don't know is that TUBA is also an acronym for terrible underwater breathing apparatus. Story 11. Glock beat Smith & Wesson to the market with a gun chambered in a new caliber Smith & Wesson had made by 2 weeks. Gaston Glock managed to steal a couple of rounds of .40 Smith & Wesson from a showcase Smith & Wesson had at a trade show, brought them back to Austria, and retrofitted one of their 9mm handguns to fire it by changing the barrel slightly. Story 12. GLP-1 receptor agonists, most notably Ozempic, were actually invented when someone discovered that Gila monster lizard venom affected its prey by forcing their bodies to process sugars, causing them to go hypoglycemic and faint, making them easy prey. Someone thought, if we create a weak synthetic version of that, we can treat diabetes and obesity simultaneously. Story 13. There is a muscle that pulls your ball sack up. Women have it too, and it does nothing for them. In females, the muscle is smaller and is found on the round ligament, where it is represented by only a few muscle loops. Story 14. A platypus is a mammal that lays eggs yet still produces milk for its offspring. However, it does not have nipples and instead sweats out its milk on its stomach. They have a bill which has electroreceptors to detect electric currents of their prey and also have webbed feet. It's like a duck that tried to go mammal but stopped halfway. Story 15. All horses of certain breeds are listed as being born on December 31st. So you can have a horse be born on December 30th, and come January 1st, they are still considered a yearling despite being a few days old. Story 16. I just learned that humans are only one of a few mammals that don't have penis bones. And the Romans regarded large penises as unattractive, so all the Roman statues had small penises. Story 17. Male ducks have a corkscrew penis. Female ducks have a corkscrew vagina, but they are opposing directions. Why? Because ducks are aggressive. Why opposing corkscrews? Because the male can't enter if the female is tense. I hate that I know this. Story 18. Henry Ford once tried to build an entire American Midwestern town in the middle of the Amazon jungle. He called it Fordlandia and tried to civilize the Brazilian workers by making football illegal and trying to teach them vegetarianism and square dancing. Story 19. The most closely related Australian native species to humans is the flying fox. It is the only Australian native placental mammal. All other native mammals are marsupials. Story 20. There is a planet in Warhammer 40,000 called Birmingham, and it's an uninhabitable hellish wasteland that not even the Tyranids would go out of their way to take over. Story 21. The second fastest goal in World Cup history, including qualifiers, was scored by San Marino, the lowest-ranked footballing nation, while playing against England. They scored in 8.3 seconds, and it held the all-time record for around 25 years. Story 22. If your second toe is longer than your big toe, you have a condition called Morton's toe. It also means your body does not convert vitamin B6 to the active form. Story 23. Dolphins actively harass and attack pufferfish to aggravate them, causing the pufferfish to puff up. This results in the release of fumes that the dolphins get high from. Not so cute now, are they? Story 24. There are 52 factorial possible unique shuffles of a deck of cards. That number is mind-numbingly enormous. It is larger than the number of atoms on the planet. Story 25. We get aurora borealis, northern and southern lights, from space tornadoes. No, really. Space tornadoes are just solar windstorms which are far stronger than what we get here on Earth. The plasma in the solar windstorm interacts with Earth's magnetic field, which gives us our light shows from space. Space tornadoes. Story 26. Given that the length and capacity of the average vagina is 6.3 inches, and the size of the average erect penis is 5.3 inches, that means in New York City, with a female population of 4.7 million women, there is approximately 75 miles of unused vagina. I may have made most of this up, but it could be true. Story 27. Over 80% of all electricity humanity generates is lost into the air by the transmission lines before it ever reaches its destination. So you have to generate a lot more than you need because it just bleeds away into the air. Story 28. Your eyes have immune privilege. If your general immune system becomes aware of them, it will recognize them as foreign and attack. Other organs with immune privilege include the brain and testes. Story 29. The human anus can stretch up to 7 inches before taking damage. A raccoon can squeeze into holes as tight as 4 inches, meaning you can take almost 2 full raccoons up your backside. Through Christ, all things are possible. Jot that down. Story 30. Honey never spoils. Archaeologists found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are over 3,000 years old and still perfectly good to eat. Talk about a sweet deal. Story 31. The plastic bit on the end of your shoelace is called an aglet. I guess you could also classify that as a useless fact too, to be honest. Switzerland prohibits the ownership of just one guinea pig. It's thought to be cruel to own just one and is classified as animal cruelty because they are social animals. Story 32. The left wing of the United States and Europe has turned into the right-wing party after the September 11th attacks. They love war, censorship, violence, looting, and feel entitled to believe they are right all of the time. Story 33. How many unique combinations are in a deck of 52 cards? 52 factorial. I have seen a really good explanation of how big 52 factorial actually is. Set a timer to count down 52 factorial seconds. That is approximately 8.0658 times 10 to the 67 seconds. Stand on the equator and take a step forward every billion years. When you have circled the Earth once, take a drop of water from the Pacific Ocean and keep going. When the Pacific Ocean is empty, lay a sheet of paper down, refill the ocean, and carry on. When your stack of paper reaches the sun, take a look at the timer. The 3 leftmost digits will not have changed. Approximately 8.063 times 10 to the 67 seconds left to go. You have to repeat the whole process 1,000 times to get 1/3 of the way through that time. Approximately 5.385 times 10 to the 67 seconds left to go. So, to kill that time, you try something else. Shuffle a deck of cards. Deal yourself 5 cards every billion years. Each time you get a royal flush, buy a lottery ticket. Each time that ticket wins the jackpot, Throw a grain of sand in the Grand Canyon. When the Grand Canyon is full, take 1 ounce of rock off Mount Everest, empty the canyon, and carry on. When Everest has been leveled, check the timer. There is barely any change. Approximately 5.364 times 10 to the 67 seconds left. You would have to repeat this process 256 times to have run out the timer. Story 34. That eating red meat during pregnancy leads to a 40% increase in childhood cancers. Carcinogenic N-nitroso compounds, created both while cooking and later digesting meat due to heme, can cross the placental barrier where they then cause DNA damage to the fetal cells. Story 35. If an astronaut on board the International Space Station were to fart hard enough to accelerate to 1 meter per second, the average weight of an astronaut, 160 to 170 pounds, would require them to expel enough methane gas to suffocate and kill everyone on board the space station. The crew would have to put on their spacesuits and evacuate the station, as the life support systems would be completely overwhelmed. Story 36. The Google image function exists because of Jennifer Lopez. In 2000, she wore the infamous green Versace gown to the Grammys. People were so desperate to see pictures of her outfit that it inspired Google to create this function. Story 37. He's not the Messiah. He's a naughty, naughty boy. Blowing raspberries underwater near sharks scares them off. Common practice while spearfishing where I was born. Story 38. The real name for hashtag is Octothorpe. British military tanks are equipped to make tea. And my personal favorites. Potassium is radioactive. If you eat 10 million bananas in one sitting, you would die from radiation poisoning. When you put some toothpaste on your toothbrush, the blob is called a nurdle. Story 39. Apparently, any DNA tests like paternity tests are illegal in France because they think it would break families apart, but culturally, the attitude towards cheating is relaxed. Story 40. Vulture bees make honey from meat. Adolf Hitler had a scat fetish, and George Washington had dentures made from the teeth of enslaved people. Also, Teddy Roosevelt delivered a 4-hour-long speech after being shot. He assured the audience he was fine, and it said the man who shot him lacked skill. Later, a doctor informed him that removing the bullet, which was close to his chest, could be fatal. As a result, Roosevelt chose to live with the bullet in his chest. However, some accounts suggest the bullet was deflected by a metal badge and a 500-page script he was carrying.